to another episode of Holding It Down with Three Plates Tommy. Today we got a very good show. I got some of my friends and the legend, the one and only Good Time Charlie Cartwright. We're going to hear a story, we're going to talk, share some joints, chill, and just have a good time. We also have with us, telling stories and talking with me and Charlie, is Brad Mariachi, tattoo artist, and Drew from Tattoo Land, who's actually works at, like right now, currently at Tattoo Land, something that Charlie himself started back in the day. But yeah, thank you, Charlie, for coming here with us and sharing your time and having us here and you know, opening your doors for us and letting us record and listen to your story. It's an honor to be here with you. You know, we all came right here to hear the stories that you have to tell, and everyone out there that's listening and watching. You know, a lot of people that are watching this show, sometimes some guys are at work, cruising, drivers, or guys that are doing, you know, forklift drivers, wherever. Just they listen to the thing on audio, and we actually have the video, so you get the best of both worlds, you know. But thank you for being on here with us, and thank you guys. Thank Drew and Brad for taking you guys' time and making it down here. Brad drove down here from Sacramento, and we're here, you know. Thank you.
Well, thanks for being here. It's good to have all you guys, and I'm sure we'll have a great time talking about some stuff, some cool caca that probably nobody's ever heard before from each one of us. So
I've never heard that term before.
Well, anyway, yeah, so here we are in Modesto, California, and I've been here 35 years, and I was the pioneer of this valley. You had to go for 100 miles either direction, any direction, to get a tattoo when I came here.
Yeah.
And now they're everywhere. And so when I first came, right away my wife told me, you should establish a moratorium. Get them to limit so you can be grandfathered in, and then you know, limit it to, you know, maybe one bad guy so you can talk crap about each other and all that stuff, you know. But you know, have it just very limited. And I said, nah, you know, it's all pretty untutored around here, and so we'll just see how it rolls. Well, you know, I watched the years go by, and now they say, and I could be wrong, but the health department told me when I closed my shop 2.5 years ago that there were 80, count them, 80 tattoo operations in my area. So if everybody's a tattooer now, I just thought, why am I even here anymore?
Yeah.
You know? So anyway, I'm still a part of the industry. I'm, you know, trapped in the history of it, and I don't mind that. I loved everything about what happened in my lifetime concerning tattoos, and I know they're here to stay. That's for sure.
What year, like, when you first got into tattooing, what year was that got you into?
Well, in 1955, my eyes were open to the world of tattoo when I saw a guy with a full body illustration of animals in the wild, and his body was tattooed like a jungle. And even though it was done with traditional style art, I will call it, you know, simple elephants and simple alligators and stuff, still the representation was there. And when I saw this guy, who I asked him to, you know, give me a light, we were both on opposite corners at the last bus out of town that night, going opposite directions. And so I said, hey man, you got any fire over there? I got a cigarette, but no lighter. And he said, okay. I ran over and he hits that Zippo, and I leaned in to light it, and I saw the V of his khaki shirt open, and there's like a vine or rope or something, and I could see darkness, and I said, what do you got tattooed there? And I said, oh, how many tattoos do you have? That's what I said. He said, one, and I said, well, let me see it. And so he starts doing this. And I thought, well, this guy's lying. He's going to show me something on his arm, and I already see one on his chest. Well, it was all connected.
Damn, it was all one big old.
Yeah, it was. You know, it was all right. The
one
right
big
stuff.
piece.
Yeah, and I said, wow, I got to figure out how you do that. And that started it all.
Yeah.
So the only thing I was hip to was hand poked. All the north end was Mexican. The 10% of the population was Mexican where I lived, and they all lived in the north end, and so all those guys had hand poke tattoos, and so that's really all I was kind of even related to at that time. So I started doing that and continued doing that, and then I got my third car right after that, and I started tattooing out of that. And
out of the car?
Yeah. And
How
so
was that?
I'd lay them on the back seat and for chest or stomach work, or and yeah,
Right there in the
and kneeled next to them. Yeah, I tattooed.
mobile tattooing.
I was at the end of the parking lot at the shopping center, and there was only a grocery store, and a burger bar, and the cozy arcade, and the pool hall, and the liquor store. So it was all right there.
It was like a strip.
Yeah, and these guys they were either, they could have their fun at any one of those parts.
Yeah.
And so there was always somebody there. I never really ran out of skin if I didn't want to.
You stayed busy.
Yeah.
And back then, who was getting tattooed back then?
Well, mostly all us guys that were the guys that from the projects and stuff, what was thought as the low class or the criminals in town,
Yeah.
And so I went around with some pretty bad dudes at one point in time, but I didn't like all the shit they did, but I always felt guilty because I was in their presence, when they would do some of these atrocities, and I always felt bad for these guys that got their head bashed in and stuff, just for a few dollars, But I wasn't the one doing it, but nevertheless, I ran around with some pretty, unrighteous dudes.
And it was just from tattooing these guys that you would just be hanging out, like.
Oh
it just
yeah,
became
well I
friendship
tattooed
from-
all the, I was like an honorary member of every gang in town.
Yeah.
And so, but I mostly hung in one spot.
That's awesome.
Yeah, because I tattooed all the socias, and as well as all the, the cool cats, and so there was all the different sets around town were different cultures even, but I was respected among all of them because they all dug tattoos, the white guys, the hot rod type with the jacked up cars and all that. Well, I loved them all, and treated them all.
And what were they getting back then? Like the
simple-
greaser dudes, what were
simple
they?
Things,
what were
but
skulls and stuff, or not yet?
Oh yeah, a lot of skulls, of course. All the piratey type things that you automatically think of: daggers, crosses. Everybody related to crosses.
Yeah.
But there was the clique that I hung around with mostly was the Golden Hawks, and so they all had little wings on their back, on their shoulder blades, and it was just simple stuff, not very big, but it was a symbol of the clique,
Yeah.
and So anyway, yeah, in the Los Reyes, the Mexican guys, they all had crowns, and well, there was all kinds of things that happened. I remember Harold Neisel, who I tattooed him many times, and I have no idea whatever became of him, but I remember tattooing him at his house, and his mother was just amazed that he would even want to keep getting them, you know. Yeah. But it was kind of like my mother. She looked at me when I'd show her a fresh one, and she'd say, "Well, you must really like them. You keep getting them."
When did you start getting tattoos?
And when I was 15, I started tattooing myself.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I've tattooed myself 44 times over the years.
Yeah, fucking let's go. When you're bored or something, just let's go.
Huh?
Or did you have like anything big, or just like whenever you were just killing time, you'd do a little jammer on yourself?
I tattooed myself by hand many times.
Yeah.
And with machines too. But yeah, usually it was. I guess we all think we're inspired. It might be the word at that moment in time, you know. And you scribble something on yourself, and you think, well, I can do that rather than wait on anybody else. And anyway, I never thought of it as anything except yet another, step down the tattoo path, you know. I was tattooed with machines first when I was 20 years old, or 19 years old, actually. And when I came to California for the first time, but I was back and forth for a year after that, after I got thrown out of the Navy. But while I was in the Navy, or in San Diego after I got booted out, I got tattooed there by several of the
sailor guys.
Yeah, some of the older tattooers. Yeah, Tahiti Felix Lynch did my first one, and I still have that. It's an anchor here, and but I was tattooed by Painless Nell, and also her sister with the wooden leg, and they. Like I said, I think last night they had a bucket shop, you know, it was called.
Yeah.
And so I was tattooed by a few of those guys there, but then in Long Beach is where I really got the more exposure to the professional world, which I kind of didn't relate to at the time. But as time went on, you know, I figured out I just had to just get in it, and as most guys do their own thing to some degree, you know.
Yeah.
And my own thing was going to East LA and putting black tattoos on brown skin. That was what I figured out I was destined to do or wanted to do, and so.
You met a lot of cool people doing it?
Oh yeah, for sure. Because well, you know, I just wanted to be part of the community, you know, and we had respect from all those guys in that area. No matter what clique they were from, they still had respect and wouldn't, pull any real shenanigans in the shop, you know.
And that's after opening Tattoo Land right there in East LA, or that's before?
No, that's
that's at Tattoo Land?
Yeah, at Tattoo Land, yeah. Which was called Good Time Charlie's Tattoo Parlor then. Yeah. But then when Hardy bought it from me, because I wanted to go back to Kansas, he moved it across the street and down a ways to the gingerbread house that's shown in many pictures, and he bought that property and moved it there.
Oh, okay.
And so they called it they were trying to decide what to call it, I guess. And Hardy said that, well, this is a story I heard, but him and Shanghai Kate both say they named it Tattoo Land. But I think Hardy made the comment, well, they have Tomorrowland and Futureland. Let's have Tattoo Land, you know.
And then, but it was always Good Time Charlie's.
Yeah, right.
And how'd you get that name? Like that name, Good Time Charlie's? Like,
What?
or did they? That's what they call you? Like, oh, that's Good
Yeah.
Time Charlie.
Working at the Pike in Long Beach. When I first started there was, I would say, I was only there maybe 3 months or something. And a little blonde came in, got a tattoo, and left a happy customer. So she comes back a week or so later, a few days later, with a friend, and she buys her a tattoo. And so pretty soon, she's bought now 3 or 4 different friends and bought them all tattoos. And so they all come now they're coming as a group. And, but after about 4 or 5 of them have been tattooed by me, they came in and the radio was playing Good Time Charlie's Got the Blues. And she says, "You are Good Time Charlie. You never have the blues." And so they all just started calling me that, and it stuck, you know, because everybody around just related to it.
They were all chill.
Yeah,
Good Time Charlie.
yeah.
Man.
Yeah. So anyway, so it's a, you know, I guess somebody made the comment. I think it was Lyle Tuttle maybe made the comment that you're supposed to be given your tag, you know, or your
Your name,
handle,
yeah.
you know. And so I guess, so since then, and that was like 1973 or 72 maybe. That's when I've been GTC.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The original.
Yeah.
3 letters.
Yeah, so that was, you know, about 50 years ago at the Pike when that happened, you know.
Yeah.
And
Man. So yeah,
There it
that's been that's cool though. You know, not a lot of people know the story of how you got your name, Good Time Charlie, and I'm sure everyone that's listening to this, the tattoo community that doesn't know, they're like, oh shit.
Yeah.
That's cool to know now, because I always wondered, well, why do they call him Good Time Charlie? You know,
Who was
Yeah.
it? Was it Tim O'Keefe, Terry O'Keefe, or Tim O'Keefe? Wasn't it that wrote that song? Or
Oh.
like came out with it for? Or who made that song big?
I don't know, but Captain Don Leslie sang it.
Oh,
too.
cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I heard a recording of him, I think, singing that.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
and back then at Good Time Charlie's, who were the artists that worked with you when you were right there?
Well, the first one, I took Jack on, and actually when I was working at the Pike is when me and him got connected. And the story is there in the movie Tattoo Nation, but I tattooed a friend of his who he had just drawn a lowrider Nazi on this guy.
Yeah.
And with a ballpoint, and it was a very clean, simple drawing. And they came in and they said, "Would you tattoo that?" And I said, "Yeah." And they said, "You would?" And I go, "Yeah." And they said, I guess they asked how much, and I told them, and they said, and could we just do it in black? And I said, "Well, of course, that'd even be better." And boy, they looked at each other and like smiled, you know,
Yeah.
and so he started bringing me people. He brought me 2 or 3 people, I guess, that he would just draw something on them, and then they'd come and I'd do
you
it.
do it.
And
was it because?
so
Oh.
So
go ahead.
as it turns out, after a couple or 3 customers there, I was cleaning up the shop one night, and he had left a piece of cardboard that he had found somewhere, Pretty big piece of cardboard, and I picked it up, and he had been doodling while I was tattooing his friend. And I thought, man, this guy's got like maybe 10 or 12 different styles of cholo writing. He's got a taste of cursive here that's pretty damn fancy. And then he's got some cartooning over here, and I thought, man, this guy's pretty well rounded, I think. And I thought, and he's hip to the jive too, because even though he's a white boy, he's grown up in the Mexican culture, and so he would be an asset, in East LA, I believe. So I told him, I said, so give me your mama or your grandma's phone number, and when the time is right, I'll give you a call, and I'll open up in East LA, I'll break you in.
Yeah.
And he said, really? And I said, yeah, but don't ever even ask me once when we're going to get started, or it's off.
Yeah.
And so I know when it's going to be. He said, oh, okay, man.
All right.
And so, I think it was probably a year and a half or something went by, and probably tattooed another one or two of his friends or something, but then I finally found the spot, because I cruised every Sunday, Whittier Boulevard, and I thought, I'm gonna find that spot. And when I did, the hair on the back of my neck just went right up. I knew it was it.
You found it.
Yeah, and so Jack was my first apprentice, that one would say. And, I didn't put him through a bunch of bullshit. I just put him on the firing line, put a machine in his hand and said, here you go, because it's on the job training when you get down to it, And, and so he wasn't scrubbing toilets and all that bullshit, My brother did that. He was the custodian there and the bouncer at the same time.
Bouncer was an important position back then, huh? Now it's just.
It damn sure was.
Well, you guys needed a bouncer at the shop?
Yeah, because you got all these hardcore, these are fucking killers, a bunch of them, and so they don't give a shit about human life even. So they don't, if you have their respect and they're going to behave in your area.
Yeah.
Well, that you can't beat that.
Yeah.
Would
you ever have a guy where separate hood, like a guy from a different hood, you're tattooing them and another guy comes in?
Yeah, check this out. This guy. Big fat guy. Which way is this going? This way.
Anyway.
And he's getting a chest tattoo. He's leaning back in the chair, and I think Creeper was tattooing him. And I'm standing at the back door at a little corner that's created by the way the building's made, and I'm kind of around this little corner, leaning against it, and I'm looking right at this guy. And so he said, "Soy Casablanca, Riverside," and I said, "Hey man, there's some big ears around here." I kind of watched my mouth, and he said, "Oh, fuck these chumps," and and I said, "Uh-oh," because George was standing right behind me, which that guy couldn't see. And he was right next to the back door. So when this guy got bandaged up, George just slid out the back door, went next door to his apartment, got his gun, walked out between the apartments and my shop. And when that guy got in the car, he caps him. When the guy's getting in the car, George goes back, puts his gun in his toilet tank, and he comes around and goes in the back of the shop. By now, we got black and whites rolling up there. And he says, "Hey, man, what's happening out front?"
Oh, shit.
This fool. Sly dog.
Damn. Slick. Everyone's normal day up.
Yeah.
Yeah, what's going on?
Yeah, and so then, too, here's the ultimate one here, too. So Brad's heard this one several times, I'm sure. But this little weasel comes running in on a Friday night, and the lobby is just packed. It's like belly to belly, back to back. You got to kind of weave your way around in there. And so this little chump comes running in, and he tries to get lost in the crowd. And
oh my goodness.
so immediately, within seconds almost, there's 4 ski masks that come in there with all of them got pistols, and that they're brandishing. And so the lead guy finds him and sticks a gun in his ear, and he says, "You want to die right here, punk?" And when I heard that, I threw my machine down and I worked my way through there, and I said, "Hey, man, nobody's dying in here." I said, "I don't want the man in here, and I don't want to clean up the mess, all right?" And so the third ski mask back goes, "Hey, man, Charlie's right. This ain't his beef." and so they marched the guy out, and so this girl comes over and says, "Well, you're not going to let him take him, are you?" And I said, "Are you kidding? That guy could have killed one of their brothers yesterday or something." And she says, "Well, here's his watch if you ever see him again, I guess." And it came off when they were jerking him around. And so I said, "Okay." So I just stuck it under the counter. So then this real tall white boy that was a plumber from Orange County, he told me, he said, "Charlie, I followed you all around getting your tattoos. I love your work." And I was actually in the project, had a King Neptune back piece in progress on him during that time.
Yeah.
And so he says, "But hey, man, when those guys came in, I thought it's a robbery going down. So I told my girl, let's slide out the back door." He said, "Hey, man, nobody was leaving this building." He said, "When I opened the doors, 20 Mexicans out there with ball bats and shotguns lined up across the property." And I said,
Oh, shit.
"Well, whatever that guy did, I bet he ain't going to do that again."
Yeah.
And so sure enough, they let him live, but every one of those 20 Mexicans that was lined up out there took turns stomping his face or his head because he was like mashed potatoes. I felt real sorry for him because he had no teeth hardly left in his head. And in his lips were only like 2 ribbons of skin. And he came in and he had babas just hanging, you know. "Hey, why see my watch?" You know, and he's just slobbering, you know, and his nose is, you know, he's got no nose that's recognizable anymore. He's just fucked up, man. And I felt real sorry for the kid, you know. But I thought, man, I bet that guy learned his lesson there.
Yeah.
He's going to be walking around, but nobody's going to know who he is.
Did he get his watch back?
Huh?
Did you give him the watch back?
Yeah, I
Yeah?
did. Yeah. Yeah.
You're like with a beating like that.
Yeah. But, you know, like,
Here's the one.
they didn't kill him, but he probably wished they would have because he was unrecognizable. Oh, so by the way, there's a story about the 23-year-old girl that gets injured in a wreck. Did I tell you this one? So, or she gets killed in this wreck, and so she wakes up at the Pearly Gates there, and or arrives at the Pearly Gates, and so she tells God, she says, why did I have to die at such a young age? And he says, "Well, what would you do if you would have lived any longer?" And she said, "Oh, I would marry, and I would have children and grandchildren, and I would tell everybody how generous and loving you are, and so forth." And he says, "Well, okay." So she's in the hospital, and the surgeons are all looking at her, all twisted up, and so she converts with them somehow, conversates with them, and says, "You know, while we're at it, can we get a little nip and a tuck here and there, and you know, and work on that chin and give me a pert nose and yeah." And so she lays it all out, and they think, well, why not? You know, it's working with like new stuff practically. So So they do the operation, and so, when she's released after healing up and all, she's walking across the street, and a car hits her, and she dies again, And so she's at the Pearly Gates again, and she says, God, I thought you promised me a long life, and you let me get hit by a car again. And he says, I didn't even recognize you anymore.
Nah.
She had so much reconstructive surgery.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Who the hell's this?
Yeah, so anyway, but we had respect back there, or I did, on a personal level for sure.
Did you guys have any you guys were talking that story about that one regular, and that guy even drew him as like in a flash. He was some big dude. They would be at the shop right there.
Is that the big guy you injected all the roses on his back, maybe?
Poco, yeah. He's the one I was telling you, my friend, my crazy friend, crazy convict friend, wanted to throw all the, the girl abusers out in the street. He was crazy. He went to prison the last time I was with him, actually, when he was finally arrested and sent away for a long time. I was with him, and we were in a median that was a big grass area between two boulevards, and it's like 10 feet wide or something itself, like a little parkway. And so we're right in the middle, and all of a sudden, any direction you looked, for 30 or 40 feet around us was cops surrounding us. Well, they wanted him pretty bad, because he had slapped his grandma to the point where she was kind of off, and he had stabbed his dad, and his mother. Well, he had intercourse with her, so that tells you something about him.
That guy?
Yeah.
Wow.
And he used to say, I kind of hate it when they call me a motherfucker because I can't really deny it,
Fucking crazy guy.
But yeah, so
That was that guy Poco?
no,
some
that was my friend from Kansas that when we went way back when.
Crazy.
Yeah. So anyway, and he would tell us, like one time we picked him up when he just did a flat year in the county farm there, and mine was the only car running at the time, so we picked him up, and he wanted to go to Topeka, which was 100 miles away, and to see his mom. And so he goes in with a gallon of red wine and says, well, I'll be out in a while. Well, him and his mom got in the bathtub and did their thing, and he came down and he says, any one of you guys want to have some fun with Ma? Well, have at it. And we said, that's okay. That's okay, man.
We're good.
Damn, that's some Conway
Where we
Twitty
going
shit
now?
right there.
And so
And he had just gotten out of jail?
yeah,
That was his welcome home present?
yeah,
He knew where he could find it.
yeah.
That's
So that's
gnarly.
really that's a pretty negative situation there. But that's the way that's the life he lived. So I ran around with a bunch of these crazy guys from the west side too, which they were most of those were white boys over there, but they were as crazy as anybody could possibly get.
Yeah.
They just take you out right now if they thought it was necessary. And you never really went into this one area called the Orchard, because it was on the other side of one boulevard there. And if you went in there, well, their bar was named the Bloody Bucket. So you can imagine it. A lot of people went in there and never came out, because they were just,
It was was it like a members only bar, or was it you walk in at your own
Well, I
risk?
mean, in that neighborhood, not just that bar. A lot of people go in that neighborhood and never be seen again. 'Cause-
It's in Wichita?
Yeah.
Damn, it's wild out there in Wichita.
Well, it was when I was a kid, you know,
And Douglas was the main highway running through there?
downtown. Yeah,
Yeah.
Douglas. Yeah. Douglas and Broadway was the main intersection in town, but I mostly was in Plainview, which was out southeast of town and was actually a separate township at one time.
Yeah.
But and they only had one local cop named Rabbit, and we'd tease him all the time. We'd run red lights and stop signs on purpose to get him to chase us.
Yeah.
It was like Elmer Fudd chasing a rabbit or something, you know. But the rabbit was chasing us.
Just bored,
and we
huh?
could lose him every time. It was amazing.
We want to take a little break to talk about
Okay.
what while we're here and
Okay.
everything, but we want to talk about Suavecito pomade.
Okay.
We brought you guys some gifts, a couple T-shirts and some,
Pomade.
combs, some pomade, keep it all fresh and clean. But yeah, that's a product that we all use, and everyone out there that listens to the show, grab some pomade, go to the links below, check out suavecitopomade.com, and grab shirts for yourself or anybody else, plus any hair product you need. They have Suavecita, they have all this stuff, and we brought some stuff over here for you guys, and they made the trip possible for all this to happen, and
Nice.
and it's
Thank
cool,
you. What's the
And-
Suavecita about?
Suavecita is their line for girls. So they have a hair product, they have a hairspray and makeup.
Crazy.
They have everything for
What?
brushes and
Great.
different things. They have a whole bunch of different products, but even like pomade for like styling,
Oh,
for
yeah.
different styles and stuff. And they have everything on there. You could just go. It's on Suavecito.
Nice.
It's easy. Pick it out, and it'll be on your door like in 2 days.
Mm.
It's like when my girl orders, she'll be like, "Damn, it's already here!" What the hell? I just ordered, so yeah, it's cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, make sure you guys check it out, and suavecito.com, suavecitopomade.com. But yeah, one thing I wanted to talk about was Brad was saying that something about some lady that it was like a ghost lady or something.
Oh, out towards that Indian reservation,
Oh, yeah.
off the Acoma Road when you
Yeah.
saw that lady?
Yeah. Well, there was me and my wife were returning to California from Kansas,
Yeah.
and so we get off the highway at the reservation there of Acoma City. The Acoma tribe, supposedly they call it Sky City because they were all up on a mesa for defense purposes. So anyway, I decided we're going to see there, but this the oldest inhabited village. The Hopis argue about them having the oldest, but oldest occupied village in North America since 1100 AD.
Yeah. And where's this at?
This is in Arizona.
Okay.
Mm.
So Acoma City, or Acoma, and so we get off the freeway, and I'm taking the east entrance to the place, and the mesa sets quite a ways actually back off the highway, and I'm at a loss as to really how far it was, but it was quite some distance, and so I'm driving, and the sun, it's just almost sunset. It's late in the afternoon, and we're just cruising along pretty slow. And what to my wondering eye should appear, but it looks like a lady dressed in finery of some sort, like silk and so forth, and she looks like she's floating, and she's on this deserted road back on the reservation. And she just looks like she's just moving very slow, but deliberately, constantly moving. And then, wow, there was a rattlesnake behind her, just walking with her. like following her like a pet.
Like on the ground?
Yes,
A real one?
on a real one. And I told my wife, I said, "Oh my God, look at this!"
Yeah.
And so I pull up beside her and I roll the window down, and I said, and she didn't flinch. She just stared straight ahead. A very matronly looking white lady, and so she's just like staring straight ahead and still moving. And I said, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" And no response. She never turned, never blinked, nothing. Kept moving. And I
And
looked
was
at
she
my.
kind of like see-through, or was it
Huh?
like solid, like a solid person?
Well, it looked like a solid person.
Yeah.
And so I told my wife, I said, "What do we do?" And so anyway, she didn't, of course, have any idea, but so we just go on. I mean, the lady's ignoring me, and I can't really believe what I'm really seeing. So we go on, and just the road goes up to the mesa off of this road we were on. There was a tribal police guy there, and he was closing the gate or something, and I says, "It's too late to go up on." He said, "Yeah." He says, "Once the sun goes down, those people have families of their own, and they got tourists all day stomping around, you know. They need privacy." "Oh, okay." I said, "I'm going to tell you something. And you might want to go check this out." But I said, if you go back down this road and then head back toward the highway, about midway in there, there's an old English lady, it looks like, walking along by herself out there. And I said, she looks pretty real to me, but I don't know what to say. So we took off. But so I asked my wife about that. Later on, a couple of years later, we're talking about it, or I'm talking about it, and she says, "I don't know what you're talking about." And I said, "Oh my God, are you kidding me? You looked right at her, just like me." She says, "I don't remember that." And I said, "Oh boy, I didn't dream that, and because it was as real as you could see, and that snake, it just looked like belonged to her,
It was following her.
Yeah, I like this one.
Good time.
Good times.
We're right here fucking smoking, having a good time with the weed. Everyone's all mellow and just
The weed's
fucking
fucking
listening
strong,
to Charlie.
that's
We're
why.
like, what the fuck?
'Cause we got the
ghost story.
strongest
We're
weed
right
we
here
could
all
smoke.
scared. Everyone's all fucking whispering. What the fuck? Crazy. No, but yeah, I like seeing the stuff like that. We I don't know if you experienced it, but my friend Ito lived at this guy Johnny's house, and his house was like super haunted. Did you ever go to
Viejitos
Johnny's?
Johnny?
Yeah.
Yeah.
His house was haunted.
My uncle used to live in the house.
That was a wild house, like straight ghost. Me and Ito, we were eating Taco Bell on the counter, like in the kitchen of the house, and then we heard people like walking in, like hey, laughing and stuff, and we're like, oh, they're back from the car show, because we heard it like just right now, like we're all talking, and then you heard them open a door, like they straight open the door, and you could hear them walking in, and then we were eating, and then we looked, and we're like, hey, we're like, hey, it's nobody, and we looked, and like it was like if people were right there, and the door was right there. They opened and closed it. We heard them. We're like, what the hell was nobody? And then, like when we were tripping on that, something ran down the hall. And I was like, what the hell? I was like, hey, dog, enough of this. So we were eating, we were putting our stuff away, and then because we kind of got tripped out.
Yeah.
And then we went to his room, and then we were coming back out to leave because we finished our food and we're leaving, and then the sink turned off. The sink was on, and when he went to turn it on, it just turned off. He's like, damn. He's like, yeah, I think I'm gonna have to move from right here. Like,
wow.
Crazy. It was like some the most wild, like where I was like, damn, that was like some it was
Yeah.
some ghost. And then another time, his girl at the she was at his house. She went to the restroom, and then when she came back out, turned off the lights in the hallway, and he's like, I could feel like that he was right there, like, and she's like, shut up, dude. And she turned on the lights, and there was nobody. She's like, what the fuck? Like, she thought he was trying to scare her, my friend, and there was nobody right there. And she's like, she got all freaked out, and she's like, we gotta leave. I gotta leave your house and never go back right there. But crazy stories, you know. But that house was super haunted, and we were telling Johnny like, hey dog, what's up? Did you hear that? And he's like, don't trip. He thought he's cool.
Yeah,
I'm like, what? He's like, he's cool, dog. Just don't pay attention to that fool. I'm like, what? Like, he knew about that fool, remember?
Yeah.
He's like, just kick it, dog. He doesn't do anything.
Yeah, you know, Johnny's like,
I'm
he used to have a
alright.
fleet line.
Yeah,
man.
like,
He's cool.
yeah, he cruises. He used to cruise with us. He's a homie.
He used
that
to have a
lived here.
Suburban.
He thought the Suburban used to be his.
Yeah,
He
the
like-
Chubby Chaser.
No, but crazy, dude. Like, that house was the most haunted place I've ever been or seen. Another one, I remember when I was little, we went to California City, and in California City, there was like, supposedly you would be able to see a virgin in the sky when you would take a picture of it, but you would just see like the glare, and it was like a cross kind of. I remember a grip of people going to go see that. I was like, damn, look at all these people fucking from all over the world. And there was people from the news right there, like, hey, we're right here. You can see I don't know what, and then now I don't know if she still appears or what's going on, but I remember back in the day, you would see you would see like the Virgin Mary on a tree.
Oh, yeah.
And a whole bunch of fools would be right
In the
there
little
praying, and
Yeah.
you're like, what the heck? And then it was one, and then the man's all, oh, I made it like that, but you know, it ended up being like his artwork or something, and everyone's like, oh,
That's like Jesus getting
And
burned
then-
into the toast.
yeah, or there was like
Going to Christ.
there was a dude, it was like a Jesus, and his feet would sweat, and they were like, how is it sweating? And it ended up being like a sewer line or something like that.
No.
That was broken, and they would drip into the statue, and it made a drip, and everyone's like, oh, fucking, it was,
Fuck.
you know, it was, or it'll be bleeding. But there's some where you see, you're like, hey, what the fuck, it'll move. You'll be like, all right,
Like crab bud.
crying blood.
Yeah.
You seen those before?
I mean, I'm not in real life, but I don't know.
but
I don't know what else I
on
believe. But
YouTube,
And paintings, so, you know, where they shed
Uh,
tears of blood.
all day. Did you ever have a biker? I seen a couple pictures where you had the tricycle behind you. Big
Yeah.
old bike. I was like, oh,
Trike.
you had biker days.
what kind of truck was it? A Flathead?
Well, it was an old Volkswagen.
Oh, it had a Volkswagen motor?
Yeah. And it was, well, I was
Had
walking
reverse,
past Lady
Have
Blue
reverse, yes.
Station one night, and she's tattooing this guy, and all I heard her say was, "I'll sell it for $1,500." And I said, "What are you selling for $1,500?" And she said, "My Trike." And I said, "Well, I'll give you $1,500 for it, and I don't even want one." And so that's what I did. But she supposedly she paid $4,500 for all the parts, and then a bunch of Hell's Angels built it for her.
They put it together.
Yeah, and so it had a real kicked out Honda front end on it. It was so squirrely, man. It'd stand up in a hot minute.
The Willie's on.
You would cruise it?
Not very often. I didn't like it because it got too much attention. It was way too over the top with that, because it had like a blue louvered top and red stained glass windows, and it was pretty cool looking, all right. But if I stopped anywhere, they'd just mob you, you know.
Yeah.
And I didn't like that, and so.
It was cool for like show or something, like a show bike.
Well, I only rode it like maybe once a year. I'd take it to the beach, 30 miles, just to, exercise the engine. You know, I'd start it now and then, but I never would really ride it. And so I used to have like 35-year-old babes, you know, pull up beside me in their Mercedes and go, "Hey, baby, I bet you have fun on that." And I'd go, "Well, I guess I would if I ever rode it." And they would just look at me kind of, you know. But that was the truth. I really didn't like that because it got too much attention, you know.
Yeah.
And so I ended up taking it to Kansas, though, and I sold it to a guy back there sometime later. But I never did really ever ride it except times like that. Me and my wife took it to the park a couple times maybe, but there was just not, you know, no interest on my part. And this one guy, one of my customers says, "You're a real psycho dude, man." And I go, "Why do you say that?" And they go, "Man, you got a trick truck and a trick trike, and you take the city bus to work sometime." And I go, "Well, I like to be part of the community, and it's like that's right by my house." And,
Yeah.
you know.
You would take the bus to work
Yeah.
to go tattoo?
Huh? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So at 5 o'clock at night was when I started my shift, and so Lady Blue, later on, after she'd been working there for a while, she says, "I had the health inspector come in today and says, you know, for years, this place has just always been open from 5 p.m. till 1 a.m. And so I get off at 5, and we don't work on weekends, so I've never been in here." But she had called me and said,
That's genius, actually.
she said, "You know, I went by your shop today and it said open at 5 p.m. And I said, "Well, that's when I go to work." And she said, "Well, why don't you open at noon?" And I said, "Well, you can open at noon if you want to. Well, I'm sure not going to be there." And so that's when she started. And so Kimiko is her daughter.
Oh, okay.
And even though she's half Japanese, it wasn't through anybody that I ever knew.
Yeah.
You know, her father and her mom, well, to quote Kimiko, "My mother married 5 times and never brought any one of them home."
Yeah, we didn't know any of them.
So Lady Blue, but she controlled things in her own way there. She was a biker cowgirl, and so she, you know, these guys get out of line, you know, well, she'd squirt them with a water gun and say, "Hey, I got a gun too, cool it over there." You know, these guys would get real rowdy, you know.
And they had real guns?
Huh? Yeah, and these guys have real guns, you know. Yeah.
Get over here, Pong Kong.
Yeah.
Cut it out.
Flash him a titty.
Yeah.
Calm
Hey,
it down a little bit.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so there's so many incidents though that, you know, I could talk about, but it was an interesting life, I got to say. It was life at its rawest, really.
Yeah.
They say that East Los proper itself, which is an unincorporated area of where I was situated in a strip there, was 105,000 population. But the murder rate was 10 times higher than New York City.
Dang.
And,
Just in that little...
yeah, that
spot.
strip. Yeah. But because those guys weren't only guarding their own, you know, block, it was their own corner sometime, you know. So they were very proud of their neighborhoods too, you know.
Yeah.
But, you know, we had respect from all of them, you know, that came. And there was never any caca that went down, except, well, you know, like George capping that guy out front for talking shit.
Yeah.
You know, and there was other incidents for sure, stabbings and different things, but but there is nothing ever inside the shop, and except if my brother caused it
Yeah.
by beating some asshole up that he thought needed it.
He was the
bouncer.
The bouncer.
Yeah,
And we were talking about that like back then. You needed a bouncer.
yeah. Well, Bobby Shaw is probably the best example of somebody. He used to, when I worked at the Pike, they would say, he's boxing outside the shop again, throwing somebody else out. But and when you're dealing with gangsters, I mean, anything can happen, and so you kind of have to be. Ride herd on these guys, or they'll just walk all over you, So I was just firm with them in a respectful way. I mean, they're as real as you get,
Yeah.
A guy that's he's not being fake or playing some phony ass role. He's a real fucking killer, I mean, I used to drive up and these 14 and 15-year-old guys would be sitting on a fence smoking coolers, and
Getting
Was
real high.
Angel dust, and come on, Charlie, take a toke with us, man, before you start your shift. And these were little men, they all packed, and they would just kill you in a minute, and but they were just real little men that grew up real fast,
They were cool dudes, but
Yeah.
if it came, they'll do something.
Yeah, so and they would, just like we used to tease Rabbit where I grew up, and we'd get him to chase us and let us stop signs and stuff. Well, these guys would fire on the narcs who were in the parking lot behind the Mexican bar. They would, by once a week or so, just go send a few rounds their way and go burn out around the corner. It was just like real cops and robbers quite often,
Like, hey,
it was
punk,
just
we're right here,
having
tag,
fun,
playing tag.
And it was the same to them as us, just,
And you guys would be right there chilling at the shop, watching all this craziness go down.
Oh, yeah. It was all around us every day.
How many gangs do you think were in that neighborhood?
I don't know,
Or
but,
how many neighborhoods do you think were in that area?
well,
You remember any of them?
the one we got the most from was V&E, Barrio Nuevo Estrada.
They would be right there.
Huh?
They would be right there. They were the good
Yeah,
ones.
they were. That was that was really their area.
Oh.
So, but we'd get guys from Jimtown and from everywhere, Pico, Montebello, all the surrounding communities, of course.
And that's in the 70s,
Yeah,
like 75 and
76, 70, 75 on, it survived, and now it's in its fourth location, actually, from my original spot. My spot, then the gingerbread house, then Jack took it to West Anaheim, and now it's in East Anaheim.
yeah.
So,
So that's the spot right now in what, Lincoln and Magnolia?
Was it on Catella or was it always on Lincoln? It was always on Lincoln.
yeah,
right?
it's always
Just a couple more miles toward or
Yeah,
past Knott's
by
Berry Farm, but
Western.
down the way.
by Western and
Okay. Lincoln and Western.
and Lincoln, yeah, in the
And-
center. It was, and he was there quite a few years. That's where Corey Miller cut his teeth in there a little. He popped through his gums.
Yes.
I like that saying. Did Small Paul tattoo there or at the one on Lincoln and Magnolia?
Well,
Small
no,
Paul, remember he-
no, it's where he is now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but yeah, Corey and Mark Mahoney worked out there too, and Creeper. I don't know. There was Chris, Corey's friend, and Tony Romo, Chris Romo, They all work there
Yeah.
on the west side of Anaheim.
Yeah. When did Mike Brown come into the picture at Tattoo Land? The first shop or the gingerbread shop?
Gingerbread shop. Yeah. He got tattooed at the first shop, but he started tattooing at the little shop that Ed moved it to. So yeah, it was him, and Freddie joined the clique there. Well, he actually he was just in the transition between the two shops that Freddie was hired. Jack hired him, and Ed told him, just hire that guy Freddie. You think it's got the touch, you know, and so he did. And I never did hire Freddie because even though he came around the shop some, but my brother would even say, hey man, you ought to check this guy out. He gets down. And I said, yeah, in more ways than one. And I'd rather not have that. So anyway, Freddie denied it later, you know, and I said, yeah, but I always thought birds of a feather flock together. You know, all your friends were, you know, very evident, and you know, so it was the association at least you were guilty of for sure, and I says, but later on you did cause problems in that department.
Yeah.
And so I said, so, you know, anyway, I still love him, and, you know, but I never would hire him, but because of that. But, you know, he's a magnificent man. You can't beat the guy's art. He's fucking unbelievable as the age he is and so forth.
Yeah.
He keeps improving even
Yeah.
the older he gets.
Is that something you thought you see? Well, you seen like what tattooing that the more you do it, the longer. Like you seen guys like, man, I remember when you first started. You know, they were doing this stuff, and now they're fucking amazing.
Well, I think everybody evolves to some degree, and it depends too on, of course, on what your personal style permits you to get away with, I guess you would say, you know. I don't know, and in many ways, I think a guy that works with a superb amount of black, well, he's going to operate way differently than a guy like me that I always like to use a lot of skin in the tattoo because as another color. And I thought that was the best way to put it. And that's the secret, I think, of having enough skin to make it a tattoo and not just a painting, you know. And so I always like the idea of leaving it a little sparsely black compared to different ones. Everybody approaches it a little bit differently, and so if you're one of those persons that does like whole forearm solid black, and you go back in and you do white figures in there, well, you know, that's not my idea. Even though yes, it is tattooing, but it doesn't appeal to me on a personal level, you know. And that's okay too. I mean, it takes all kinds, right? So.
Yeah, you see all the different, how it evolved and how people have taken tattoos. There's like, I've seen some guys that tattoo like in, I don't know if it's Germany or something, and it's all about like pain. And they like do like these crazy face tattoos, and
they do a pain session with the big needle,
big old needles, and and it's all about like the pain or something. It's like, what the hell?
Who can take it
but
the
these
longest?
guys have like,
Patches
and it'll
and
just be a
scratches.
patch of just like a whole bunch of like
Scratches.
splatters, and it's super dark in these crazy areas, like their face, even their eyeballs.
Yeah. It's
Really?
like, it's
you're
like to see
like-
how much they can take. It's like pain sessions or something called
And
like that.
it's crazy, you know.
Blackout sessions. I don't know. I'm not into that stuff.
It's a macho thing, huh?
It is a pretty machismo thing.
Yeah, like what the hell? Just
Seen the guys like rising off the table while the guy's doing it. It's
and they're all
like,
holding them down.
Yeah.
You're like, what? Oh, it's crazy how they taking it now. And
It's new tribalism, bro.
back when, like, when you guys started all the, like, did you guys travel and do tattoos? Like, how now, like, guest spotting?
No, I
and
never did.
all that, or
I
that
never
wasn't, is that now stuff, or like, not, like, that started, like, in the 90s?
Oh, I'm not sure when it started, but when it did, I found it kind of amusing to begin with. But I realize now there's some guys, that's all they do is guest spot here and guest spot there. And that's their life. And kind of a gypsy tattooer. But I used to work my ass off in my shop. So when I came to California on a vacation, I didn't tattoo at any. I went out there for socialization, or if I went to conventions, and I went there to just socialize because I worked my hiney off in my shop. So that's why. And I used to encourage guys who would quite often would tell me, well, you know, Charlie, I got a few customers in your area. How about if I do a little guest spot there? And I go, you know what, man, I think you should really make people come to you in your own element. You know, if they want to be tattooed by you bad enough, they can come to see you, you know, where you're comfortable in your own shop instead of in some setup that's, you know,
some guys
spur of the moment type
subpar,
thing.
yeah.
Yeah. And the lighting is bad and this and that and
Compromised.
Well, yeah, and it's just well, yeah, it just ain't right. So very, very few tattoos did I ever do. But I remember Gary Fink, he had me tattoo on him in script. Quality Tattooing by Professor Persnickety. and I did that at the Pike. But in the shop where he was at working for Captain Jim, the Rose, I think it was called, across the Midway. And but so I did that, I remember, and that was on a vacation. And I got kind of into doing a Christ head on a guy in East LA too. But it's very, very, if I'm there to socialize, that's why I'm there.
Yeah.
But then I do go to these conventions and sometimes on Sundays I'll put GTCs or a CS on them. Or, you know, some guys just want Pachuco crosses and little knick-knack things.
And the Instagram lights up for a week with all kinds of shit after you do that. Everybody's posting pictures with you. They all got boners. They're super happy. It's really cool to see.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Everyone, you know, when Charlie comes around and it's like you come and bless people's shops, you know, people appreciate,
cool.
They love that. Everyone, they're like, Charlie, stop by, you know.
I always say that's like a motivator for the young tattooer. Like, I don't want to go to work today. It's a Monday. Like, don't forget, Good Time Charlie could walk in, be the one opening that door. Any one of these days, you better show up for your shifts.
Yeah. How was that? How you worked at Tattoo Land too? Good Time Charlie's. Did you you work there? That's how.
Yeah.
All that. How was that when you were around and when
it was awesome.
when
I got to tattoo there for a couple years, and you do a tattoo, and you look up, and Charlie's watching you do a tattoo.
You're like, oh shit,
pretty cool.
Yeah, I gotta be on my.
I gotta step it up, yeah.
Yeah, let me see. That's cool.
I better start doing some of that tornado shading that I was doing a minute ago.
Yeah. The tornado shades? What are those?
Tornado shading, bro. It's top secret.
You gotta know.
No, but it was cool. Obviously, it was cool to work there. It's an honor to work there.
That's cool. And then
like a legacy.
You, Drew, like now being there at Good Time Charlie's, you've been there, what you say, like since 2014 or something?
Buddy. Yeah.
That's wild. you know, and how's that from you doing tattoos and probably hearing stories about Good Time Charlie's Tattoo Land? That's like the top, if you know, anybody who knows what's up with like tattooing and stuff. That's like the goal, or to even pass by right there. They're like, you go in there,
power shop,
you
man.
walk in there, you come out doing
The original
good
power
work.
shop.
You know, like everyone, yeah, it's like a blessing being, you know, around these artists and that tattoo, like Good Time Charlie's Tattoo Land. Like, it's an honor being there, and it's crazy how. You know, me being able to go and kick it right there, and Drew working right there, because it's like from being our homie and everything, you see like the progression and the drive, and this fool was always tattooing and sick, always was dope, like just Drew. And then it's like, oh, he's at Good Time Charlie's. You're like, what? It was, remember, it was just crazy. It's like he got made, like on Goodfellas when Tommy got made, you know, like that's him. He was at Good Time Charlie's, and it was cool when all of us, you know, when he was there, and then he's been there for forever
8
now.
years, you said, huh? You were shooting to reach that pinnacle for the 40 mark. That way you could be where you're supposed to be and fucking skyrocket in the 40. Remember what you said about the 40s?
that was
Yeah.
That was the
You'll
best
do
to
your
hear.
best work when you're in your 40s.
Words of wisdom from Charlie.
Yeah. And you know, so all through these years, I've watched all these little superstars, and all these talented cats. It's just like they all tell me the same thing, that they benefited from working there because of the iron sharpening iron concept. That, you know, because all of them that are there to begin with, they got something to offer the world, or they wouldn't even be there.
Yeah.
Because Jack's not going to just put some jackass in there that's just a tattooer. You know, he's going to put somebody in there that's serious-minded. Or Roy, if Roy's doing the hiring, Roy's going to put them, you know, make sure they're bona fide and qualified. And so... Circumcised, yeah.
all the heights.
But yeah, so anyway, I've seen a lot of these young cats really, you know, make major contributions to the industry, and here's a couple of them right here, of course.
Yeah. But the lineup is immense.
Yeah, and it is. It's like different ones who have told me, you know, like Charlie, I can't believe how much I've learned since I've been here. And I'd look at them like, well, I thought you were a superstar when you got here. And,
Right.
you know, but yet they all benefit from the exposure to each other, because I think they're, even though of course everybody has one, but I think the egos are pretty much all under control.
For real.
And that's the
Yeah.
secret right there.
Yeah.
It's just a bunch of individuals who love tattooing and help push each other further up the ladder.
Unsung
You know?
heroes.
Yeah. Because, I mean, the stories I could tell you about different ones, Charlie, you know, I never worked at a shop like this, blah, 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 and where, yeah. And I go, well, yeah, some guys tell me this is an institution, a tattoo institution. And I go, well, it really is, because everybody learns something from each other, and everybody has a real good understanding of tattooing on some level before they even get there, you know. They're serious business, or they can't be there. And
Yeah.
so anyway, I'm proud of all of them that have come up in that spot, that's for sure. And all the people that have worked for me directly or indirectly under my name and represented, because every one of them are really, I'd say, a soldier of the cross, you know.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I really can't say enough about how blessed I am.
And there are so many. Sorry to interrupt you. There are so many people.
It's like a master's program with the guys that worked and were been able to walk, cross that line of going in and working at Good Time Charlie's and representing those three letters, GTC.
Yeah.
And every person who I've seen or known that is tattooed there or even has those letters on them, they're a solid dude, every way, and it's pretty fucking awesome to be around you guys, and to even get these opportunities, be with you guys and do all this, and we're right here, traveled and and to even be right here in your backyard, chilling and enjoying.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, but go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, remember the bat that Dick Warsaki made that had everybody's name on it, like going around the bat?
Yeah, axe handle.
Was it an axe handle?
He's an axe handle.
Yeah, at the art show.
Yeah.
Dude, do you
What
see
was
that,
it?
Tommy? It was an axe handle, I guess, like that long. I thought it was a baseball bat, but dude, he wrote every single person's name on there that ever worked at Tattoo Land, like hand painted it
No way.
with like one shot or something. Really
Yeah,
cool.
and it was really on natural wood,
It was amazing.
blonde,
Yeah.
like a real
Letters-
blonde wood.
Each letter was like this big, with a really cool big large capital, but like each letter,
And it's right there.
it should be. I
It
imagine.
was.
I have no idea.
It was on the shelf.
Could be
I
a
think-
lowercase old
I think it's
English.
hanging up.
Might be just script. I'm not sure, but it's super. Man, it is
Yeah.
so tough.
Well, I think maybe might have been a little bit of both, maybe.
Right. He was
But
a
it was really cool.
yeah. He was a creative individual, huh?
Oh, he was.
He did a lot of nature stuff.
Oh, he was a full-blood Sioux Indian, Dakota Sioux, trapped in an Irishman's body. That guy was he was an Indian. He was a white Indian because he understood a lot of their words, and he studied their. Well, his best friend was Henry, I don't know, Sleeping Bear or something, and so they did a lot of stuff together, and they would do where you get in the oven and roast there for a little bit.
Sweats.
And so anyway, Dick was quite the amazing individual. Spent many happy hours around that guy.
Hanging out with them and getting knowledge, soaking it all in.
Yeah, he had his grow room was upstairs at the peak of his old house, and he had a roof that was pitched like that. So the very top level was just a triangle, but he grew smoke up there. And so that was his man cave, I guess you'd say. So I look over and sitting in this window, there's a doll. And it's a pretty good sized doll. Head on it probably bigger than an apple, probably more like a grapefruit or something, but pretty nice size. You can imagine it in a sitting position. And he said the guy that I made that for paid me $10,000, I think it was. He sent me my money back, and he sent the doll back too. Said I can't live with that thing in my house. And I said, well, what was so special about it? And he said, well, I used real human hair and real human bones to build this little guy, and and then dressed him in leather, buckskin leather, and so forth. And but that
That's fucking heavy duty, right?
Oh, okay.
anyway.
Think about it for a second.
That's fucking
Yeah.
little doll, a real little.
And so so who knows what that, what kind of, quite often you hear, oh, there's no such thing as residual spirit, but, if in this case, something was there,
That's wild.
Want to put that on your clip?
Yeah. Well, it's a filter though.
Right now, I'm gonna pop one of these puppies open. This is a brewery, Cervezacito Brewery. It's in Santa Ana. They're one of our sponsors for our show.
Nice.
But they opened up a brewery. Suavecito Pomade opened up a brewery right there in downtown Santa Ana, and we brought some beers. So for Brad or for you guys, if you give them as a gift, if for who out here. But they're a cool brewery out there in Santa Ana. It's on 4th Street and Broadway. We're actually gonna have a show on the 30th. Live podcast right there set up like this.
Dope.
We're gonna do a show right there and have people come. Probably have some guys play guitar and accordion. I'll probably sing a couple corridos with them. Just have a good time. But if you guys are in town and whoever is watching this is in town, go to 4th Street and Broadway and Santa Ana to Cervezacito Brewery. But yeah, for a good time. They have everything. They have beers. They have like slushies of like seltzer. Bomb.
Let's try that shit. Pop that shit open.
It's probably kind of warm.
Make this like a reveal video or something.
It's kind of warm probably, but shit, beer's supposed to be hot, don't they say? You want that one? That's a hazy. This is a ale.
I can't handle very much of it, but I'll try it with you.
Oh yeah, we don't have no cups, but
want to get
one? Just act like we're in TJ and we'll all just drink it.
Or we're gonna come in, cut into commercial break to pour some cups of this. Be right back.
Suavecito smells insanely good. Meet Suavecito, the world's finest pomade with an unrivaled all-day hold. No matter what your look is, we got you covered. Whether you want a softer, gentler hold, like a warm embrace from your abuelita, or a fiercely strong hold, when you're styled with Suavecito, you'll have everyone turning heads. We got thousands of reviews from guys who have thanked Suavecito for helping them land their dream job and their dream date with their dream do. Ready to transform your hair game for good? Click the link and pick up some of our award-winning superior pomade. Suavecito. Get it, hombre.
We're gonna fucking roll a joint, but we're just right here enjoying it, having a good time with Charlie.
That's all Charlie does.
Yeah.
Remember that one time we came back from somewhere and I asked you, I said, hey man, did you have a good time? And you're like, of course I did. You just told me right away, like, of course I did.
Well, when I used to call my wife from a convention, because she would never go to conventions with me for a long time. But when I would call her after a couple days, well, how'd your day go? Did you have a good day? And she said, yes, I did. And there's no sense in me asking you if you had a good day, because you always seem to have one. I said, well, I got to keep up my name.
That's awesome.
Always a good time. But hey, ever since we've been here, since we touched down and we met up with you, it's been a good time. We went to Maria's, got some those burritos. Everyone got these bomb burritos right there, and it was 24. Just. We got a mountain of nachos. David got a big old mountain. He came out with a big old tray like this, big old volcano appeared nachos. And then he thought, damn, there's a grip. I look back and they're all gone. I'm like, eh. I'm like, oh, quick, huh? But yeah, we were munching out.
Yeah.
But it was good. But yeah, the whole time it's been a good time right here. And yeah, and thank you for having us right here at the at your house. Showing us the collection of 1,300 Indian books, like on everything you could think of Indian, like the tribes and their artwork and pottery stuff, and then a whole bunch of figurines. Yeah. But like from back in the day, those things are from like the 50s, huh?
Oh yeah, some of them are precede that. I got everything from plastic toys to metal, some of them are, just real cheap. Some of them are real expensive, and I don't draw a line between any. If I like it, I just buy it and mix them together. So there's some cool stuff in there that
caught your eye.
Yeah.
You're like, I'm gonna keep this guy. Do people give you gifts all the time where you're like, oh, because I'm sure when they come and see your collection, they're like, oh, I'm gonna get Charlie something. Do you get a lot of that?
I get a lot of gifts, but from in the tattoo world more so than the Indian thing.
More like drawing.
There's a couple of people though that have sent me stuff about Indians, but mostly it's tattoo stuff.
That's cool. What got you into that to collecting like all the Indian stuff and all the books?
I thought they were the real Americans. They were the first people on this continent, and that's been. I just read some more about it. How they. There's 4 theories about how they came and arrived here, and occupied the Americas after the Ice Age. And the most common conception is that it was a land bridge between Siberia and Alaska, practically, that you could. Even today, I think there's only 41 miles.
Still very close.
Huh?
It's really close.
And there's like 2 little islands or something there in between. But so you could just hop from place to place. And anyway, so the fact is Eskimos have lived on both sides of the so-called land bridge up there for centuries. And it's been proven that both sides have been occupied over and over. So that's where it all really filtered out from there, and that's why most of them really have a. If there's a lot of, there's now it's so much mixture, but if you're pure blood of any tribe that was official, say pre 1850 or something like that, they all had, Oriental eyes almost, and almost hairless bodies, and chin and facial hair.
Mm-hmm.
And so there was common characteristics with all the way down to the Tierra del Fuego. And so we know it all, that's how it really all had to be. They're just from north to south until, it was all full. But anyway, so the American Indian, although I don't have that much on South American Indians, although I do have quite a few books on,
like the
Central
Aztecs,
America.
The Aztecs and stuff.
Yeah, the Aztecs and the Mayans and all the tribes of that area down to South America, but I still honor them, and have a few things about all the South American as well. But when most people think of Indian, they identify the chief look with the real noble profile with the headdress and
like the paintings that they see,
Yeah. So that's the most common conception, and it's the Prairie Indian. It has nothing to do with all the different tribes had such a different look and custom about how they dressed and how they wore their hair and all that stuff.
Most of the Prairie Indians were the ones that wore headdresses and stuff?
Yeah. And they say it actually only, in a lot of people's mind, it only really originated from one tribe, and that was the let's see, I want to say the Ottawa.
That's from
who
Canada,
were known
no?
as the Ottawa at one time. And so anyway, I just had an interest in Indians. I ran around with Indian people, guys, some of them, and And the Indian girls, I like to dance with them because they were good dancers. And, you know, I dated a few.
Yeah.
But, you know, and ultimately, well, my wife, even though she's referred to as a Chicana, I guess she's got like, we did an ancestry search on her. And so she's so much Yaqui and Mayan both.
That's cool.
And she said, well, it don't say anything about Mexican. And I said, well, it's not going to say that. I said, you were either an Indian or you were Hispanic, you know. You were Latin. Yeah.
We're partying.
My nephew, he did that, and he said, like, our side of the family has, like, Syrian and stuff, like our grandma.
Is that why you're so
My
hairy?
mom's grandma was from Syria. All this crazy stuff. I was like, damn, what the hell?
You're all hairy.
But
and shit.
I'm like, what is that? Is it accurate? Because some, they'll be like,
I
oh,
think they're
you're
just trying to collect your
right
DNA.
here. I know. It's like they're just trying to get your DNA. Because they were showing a whole bunch of stuff where they get people for DNA stuff. And they're like, oh, his DNA popped up. Somebody did they're like, this guy's brother did a Ancestry.com thing.
Yeah.
And the DNA matches the same DNA that some guy was left at a crime scene in 1975. And then they go back and look to see the guy's name, and it's like, oh, yeah, this guy is the same dude. And it ends up being the brother that was like, he was already in prison for some other crazy crimes. And it's like, yeah, he's in jail right now, but he was already in jail for life or something. But he ended up being the murderer, and they found him from those things because his brother did the ancestry, so they matched. And they're like, so if somebody around you did this crime, that's crazy. Because I'll watch YouTube. I'll get stuck at night watching like the crime TV and all that, and I'll be in the night watching. It'll be 2 a.m. I'll be like, what the fuck? I'm not sleep yet. And I'll be like, all right, I'm going to go to sleep right now. And then I'll watch it. And I'll be like, what? Wait up.
You're all distraught.
Wait up. I'm like, hey, was that guy? Because it'll be like some dude that's telling the story. And he's like, no, I didn't even kill nobody. I was at my sister's house the whole time. I don't even drive a car. And you know, I'm not even over there. And then all of a sudden, you know, and they're like, oh, we got to let him go. We don't have anything on him. And the guy's like, no, he's the one that did it. And then they'll see it'll be a camera across the street. And then you'll see the dude pull up, and he's like, oh, what's up? And it's like, oh, it was him. So then they'll get the SWAT on him, and then they bring him in later, and he's like, man, I told you guys. And it's like, we got you on film. And he was like, it's one of the dudes, they got him on film, and he looked at the camera, he's like, you think that's me? And it's him. It's like, he's like, you're wearing the same shirt.
Shit,
he's like, you're wearing the same sweater. Like, he had taken off the sweater, but he's like, you're wearing this sweater that we have in the car. He's like, so what's going to happen? Like, it's crazy, the stories of people. I always trip out how these guys like just killed somebody like hours before, and they're all calm. They're like, hey, what's going on? Yeah, can we ask you questions? And they're like, yeah. And they're like, cool. I'll be all like, oh shit, all fucking, probably they found me in bushes or something, all hiding, running away from something. Like, I don't know, I'd be going crazy if you just kill somebody, you know. And they're just chilling at their, like, oh, he came over to the house, you know, he's hanging out right here. And he'll be doing something in the backyard. It's crazy shit how people are. There'll be killers that are just calm, and they'll kill somebody right there, and they'll be like, oh, we're kicking it right here, and then that's wild how people can do that shit.
Control their emotions,
how you said that guy. Yeah. Where he did that, and he just was like, what the fuck's going on right here, to the cops, and he just like, we're here for you, and he's chilling. Like, that's wild. I always trip out on those shows. They get me every time at night. You watch those?
Yeah. Like the first 48, no?
Yeah, first 48, and then they have like a short thing where they tell the whole story of something. And I'll be like, damn, did they get him at the end or something? And then some are messed up, and they're like, if you guys have any information, you're like, man, nobody found
Remember Unsolved Mysteries when you were a kid? That shit was fucked up.
That one was
fucked up.
You know, fucking watching like, all right, change it.
Kids getting snatched.
We don't want to watch it no more. We all scared watching fucking Unsolved Mysteries. Did you watch Unsolved Mysteries?
What was it?
That show Unsolved Mysteries?
Yeah, sometime.
Where he would say some crazy stories about some found in 1973. Fucking Joan was walking and
when suddenly just only the dog came back to the house.
2 years later, a man was arrested who had fucking her DNA and
was Douglas Highway?
Was that America's Most Wanted?
Douglas Highway or Douglas Boulevard? Douglas Highway, right?
Remember Rescue 911
in Kansas?
It was Douglas Boulevard. Yeah.
Was that a?
But the highway was Kellogg. That was high. That's 66 going through there.
That was actually Route 66?
Huh?
That was actually Route 66?
Well, it was, I'd say close enough. It was like thought of, it was kind of a shortcut from New Mexico to Kansas City or someplace.
Around the, the 60s and 70s when the hippies and all that was that movement, were those guys getting tattooed or?
Oh yeah,
you'd be a lot of crazy weirdos that come through and want to get some political stuff or just whatever.
Well, there was ones that I never did know for sure, but I suspected were associated with Charlie Manson.
Oh yeah,
and even though it wasn't absolute, but I just believed that to be true.
Dude.
Yeah, I dealt with all kinds there, and we had also the Mongols motorcycle club there quite often, and they were, of course, rival gang motorcycle club with others in the area, and so there was never any incidents that went down with bikers in there, but we tattooed several clubs there.
Yeah. What about like drugs and stuff? Did you ever do it like in the 70s and stuff? There was like doing acid and all that stuff. Were you ever into any of that stuff, or were you just smoke?
Well, one time, unknown to me at that time, this guy ran in and he handed me, or I believe it handed directly to me, a bag of smoke and said, "Here you go, Charlie." And so I remember thinking, I said, "Oh, well, thanks, blah, blah, blah." And so later on, I told Jack, I said, "Well, let's smoke some of this stuff and see what it's all about." And so I filled up a pipe and took maybe 2 or 3 hits maybe, and Jack did the same. And then all of a sudden we were both in La La Land. And so this little guy, Frajo, was the guy that turned me on to all this weed. Well, he didn't say it was angel dust.
No.
And so, anyway, so right away, I'm thinking like a computer. Where's Jack at? I do not see him. And, so I know I'm kind of processing myself in an unusual way, and I realize that, and I'm thinking, what the hell? And then I see a wallet on the ground, and I picked it up, and it was Jack's wallet, and it was open to his driver's license, but his picture was a skull.
Wow.
And so, and I thought, wow, Jack's wallet. And then when I analyzed it, you know, when I really analyzed it, you know, I just didn't know what to think either. And anyway, so as it turns out, I think that time I called my wife and I said, "Babe, I've got to meet the gas man here at 11 o'clock or something in the morning, you know, at the shop, and for him to do whatever he needed to do to activate the gas, because I just always shut it off in the summer because there was no reason for us to have it, you know, and so anyway, the having the gas turned off, blah blah blah. Where the hell am I going with that? Damn, lost my thought. Where were we going? Talking about?
We're talking about. Yeah, we're all high. What the fuck were we talking about, motherfuckers? We were talking about back in the day.
And, well,
that shot.
About having her come and meet the gas guy.
Yeah.
And I says, and I'm just
the PCP.
I said, and I'm being.
Oh yeah, there we are.
And so I said, so I'm going to be crashed in my bunk because I had a built-in bunk in my back room for reasons that it might need to be there. So I crashed out back there and I said, just leave me be. You know, I can't talk to nobody. Can't be real. If you understand what I'm even saying and. You know, and so anyway.
You were all tripped out?
Yeah, I still was just bombed. And so, so as it turns out, I didn't entertain anything but, you know, laying there until almost 5 o'clock. And I get up and around, and here comes Jack through the door. So we haven't even opened the shop yet. And here comes two brothers of mine that I've two brothers that are clients of mine that I tattooed before. Yeah. And so here they come, and they said, Tony says, "Hey man, you got any good smoke?" And I said, "Yeah, but you don't want this." And he says, "Oh yeah, come on man." And I said, "Hey man, I have walked you into your bedroom and put you to bed personally. Yeah. I can testify what you can handle and what you can't, and I'm telling you can't handle this." And so anyway, he was quite adamant, you know. And oh fuck, you know, I thought you come on, Holmes, and I said, okay, smart ass. So I fired up that pipe and handed it to him. And he took maybe two or three hits, and then his brother took 2 or 3 hits, and then when I turned around after his brother lighting up and kind of, you know, looking at each other for a couple minutes there, well, I turned back around, and here Tony is, and he's laying there with his head down on the work table, and he's just convulsing, you know, and he's foaming and at the mouth and all this shit, you know. And so I grabbed him and I jerked him up and I just popped him right in the chest. Oh my God! He came out of it.
It worked?
Huh?
It worked?
Oh well, he turned it. It got him out of that trance, but. My God, he was, he kept talking about it's coming down. It's coming down, man. The gold's coming down. It's coming down. I'm telling you, the gold's coming down. And he starts ranting like that. And I told Jack, go close the place up, man. Now we got to babysit these fools all night because they're so fucking macho. They think they can handle anything, you know. And I said, well, I don't want nobody handling this anymore. And I took a hammer and I smashed that pipe, man.
Yeah, get this motherfucker.
And I thought, fuck it. So Flaho he was on my shit list after that. Yeah. Oh, boy.
Gave us that bullshit, huh? We're coming over
Flaho,
here with that
of course his
fucking
name's
fucked up
Flaho,
weed.
too.
Getting us all wild.
Of course, that's his name.
Huh, Flaho?
Yeah. How do you think he got that name?
Get this guy out of here. That fool gets lit.
Hey,
PCP.
tell me a joke, Tommy.
Where's the jokes at?
I don't know. just
Oh,
tell me.
what was the joke that Brad said you had some cool jokes, and he was telling us a joke about the alligator, the guy with the alligator that walked into the bar.
Oh, yeah. Let's see. He can probably tell it better.
No, it's always better when you tell it. That's for dang sure. That's a good one. And
Let me see. I got to think how that goes, even.
and the knock knock joke about the cowboy.
Yeah. Yeah, knock, knock. Who's there?
Yeah, who's there?
Tick. Tick who?
Yeah.
It is pretty funny. It's just silly, but it's just funny.
Let's see. What the hell is it?
His name is
Tick
Tick
something.
who?
It's Tick. Who's there? Tick who?
Tick him up, I'm a tongue-tied.
Oh, yeah, pick him up. I'm a tongue-tied cowboy.
That's the
Yeah. That's
Yeah, we
it.
were laughing.
Uh-huh.
I noticed lately that when you start telling jokes, like I'm over here, like just like acting or sounding really smart and like, oh, I remember 4 jokes in a row and they're all good. You're always like, one joke will remind you of something else across the table. Always be like, oh, that just reminded me of the fucking nun joke I know, or the fucking whatever joke. It always brings them back quick.
And you'll bust them out, huh?
Yeah, but you got to have somebody else busting out jokes too that'll like bring you back into it.
Yeah.
Seems to be the way it works with jokes.
I always suck at telling jokes. I try to tell a joke, I fucking forget. Like, oh fuck, never mind.
Yeah, but you're funny enough. You can make things
fucking
funny.
Joke. I just tell stories. I'll just tell a story about fucking whatever.
Yeah.
Like, oh,
One time I was
Shit.
fucking whatever.
when I was a little kid, fucking this. Like I told the story before. My friend, they had a cat. His family, they had a cat, and the cat, she had kittens. Like she would like get out. Well, she ended up coming back, and she was pregnant. So the mom, she got pregnant. So the mom, it was fucked up. But the mom took her all the way out to the mountains. Like drove out to like Walker's Pass. It's like out of town, on the freeway. Went into the mountain to drop the cat off, and the fucking later, like not thinking nothing of it. Later on, I don't know, a month or whatever later, the fucking cat came back, and they had the kittens. Like she brought her fucking cats with her. There was like 4 cats with her, and the cat came back all the way to the house, and she left them like. She left the cat in the mountain. She's like, I left that shit. I left her far as hell.
That's
like
insane.
she wouldn't think it came back, and they came back with her little kids.
They got that like cat sense.
Ain't that wild?
That's wild.
You've
Like
had a
how they
lot
say.
of cats that have probably been born in this backyard,
How
huh?
many miles do you think?
Yeah, they have, but they were never ours personally.
Like in the fence,
It's like
and
just
the water
pure
fountain and
desert,
stuff,
bro.
or the
Yeah, plenty of them. Yeah,
And the
but you know
waterfall.
we haven't had any.
for a long time.
Like
Yeah, probably in 3,
probably 15
probably
months.
2 or 3 years now. We haven't had any living up there.
Yeah. Last time, well, a long time ago when I was here, me and you found some in that fence back over there in that corner.
Oh
I
yeah,
remember because that fence is like wide at the bottom. It's
Yeah.
got 2 planes to it.
So what, Uzi?
yeah. He could hear him cry.
Yeah.
Uzi.
My cat.
But we don't have
Yeah, that's a
pets
good cat.
personally, other than the koi that were living in that pond, and now it's poison. And my wife is so pissed at me because I poured Roundup in there, and she says, "Oh, you're going to contaminate the whole earth, practically," you know. And I said, "That's going to evaporate off with the water, and
The earth will kick some Roundup's ass. The people fucking douse that shit other places anyway. So
anyway, so I'm okay with having a garden there.
And one thing we haven't talked about with you is the tattoo, the heritage project that you got going.
Yeah. Well, that's another thing that's probably what my main focus is, I guess, anymore, is trying to get people to even be concerned about it, because a lot of people just live in the present continuously, not realizing that they're creating the past and entering the future as well, and all of it matters. And I think there's just so much that people can learn about each other's, the individuality of maybe the tattooers themselves that, you know, created the interesting life they've had, and the I would like it to be where you could do research on any individual that you wanted to that's ever been recorded in history anywhere, you know. And I realize it's a pretty daunting task to have such a magnificent, you know, I would say, you know, nice present for the tattoo lovers of the world. I just think it's very important to preserve and protect the whole concept of tattooing, and just unify everyone in the on the educational aspects of it all, because a lot of these young people that are waving a little wand around in their hand and doing, you know, really creative stuff from time to time. Well, I don't know. Where was I going with that? Anyway, I'm probably just ranting and raving because I'm smoking a lot of weed here.
I know. We fucking passed around the joint after doing the circle.
I think we're at like 11.
We were just, and we did before this. Not only on the show,
I'm pretty sure we're at like 11.
Yeah.
Since breakfast.
It's going down. We ate did you eat? Were you able to eat the breakfast or not yet?
No, I haven't yet.
No. It's going down.
Yeah, the burrito.
No, but so the Heritage Project, you're gonna try to do it out in Long Beach?
Yeah, well, that's my idea. Where I think it should be, because, first of all, not because of my personal history there, although I've enjoyed my years there, but which was about 3 at the max. But there was, it's the harbor of Los Angeles, so it's an international port, and it's midway between San Francisco, or not exactly geographically, but it's between San Diego and San Francisco, the only 2 other major ports that would have a large tattoo community. But the West Coast tattooers that grew up and you know, got their start in history at the Pike were quite a few, Zeke Owen and among many others, but there was, I think, to me, I think there's not enough knowledge about any of it. I mean, you know, when you stop and think about not just the tools that have been used to tattoo, because man's going to mark himself some way or another, you know, and so it runs everywhere from, you know, the boar's tooth to the cactus thorn, or, you know,
the cuts,
yeah, or the incision, and packing the ashes in there, or the charcoal, or, yeah, so the men are going to mark themselves regardless, and well, why am I saying all of that? Just to say that I would like to see actual presentations of designs that were known to have been in archaeological times on primitive man, as that we think of as primitive man, and what these concepts meant. But to me, here's how I think of it. There should be maybe 10 little mini photo booth type thing, like a porno booth or something, where you could just sit in there and punch like 10 different programs and change it, that are on the menu there, that are, you could look at tattoo shops or you could stop anyone, start anyone you want, back and forth. And then at the end, if you want to keep any of it for your own record, you could walk out and pay so much for that 15 minutes you wanted to hear about, Cap Coleman or somebody.
Right.
And so, and
like public library.
Yeah. And so, but it would just be real private, hopefully vented where you could smoke as well as, watch all these little mini movies.
People won't want to leave.
Crazy.
They'll stay right there. They'll be kicking back. Like, hey, you have to kick them out.
Charlie papers.
Imagine some Good Time Charlie papers and some fucking a Good Time Charlie joint at the door. Buy a Good Time Charlie joint
with you. You'd sit down and be in there all day in the smoking room.
Yeah.
Hey, if the airport can have one, you guys can have one. They have those at the airport, maybe not at LAX, but...
Oh, where you smoke?
Yeah, remember the airports have the smoking rooms?
Yeah.
And cigar bars have that shit.
I think they're starting to do the smoking lounges where you can smoke.
Yeah. Venice had that shit a long time ago. They had hash
they used to do that shit before that shit was even legal. They were like, fuck it. You could go and get an ID. You would just sit in... There would be a guy who would come out.
Yeah.
He would just have a little suit like a doctor, like a jacket. He would just come out and he would be like, hey, how's it going? He'd be like, what's going on? He's like, what's wrong with you? I'll be like, man, my back's hurting. I'm all fucked up. I can't even fucking walk right. I don't even know how I'm here. And then they'll be like, all right, cool. He'll just sign a fucking paper. You go, $50, and then they'll give you an ID. And then you had a medical weed card. That was before.
Yeah.
And then I remember, I don't know what happened where we tried to use it, like, at some place to get like a discount. They're like, this ain't even a real fucking license. We're like, what? We paid $50.
Fucking Pint used to work at Sideshow Tattoo down there, and our buddy Mike on that spot, and fucking there was a weed store right next door, like a doctor, just like that. And we'd be out front smoking and shit, and people would come to the door all day long, banging on the door. You motherfucker!
Yeah.
I'm not kidding. It was one of those fools.
Yeah.
So maybe they were selling fake licenses.
Oh, they would do that shit all day.
Dude, that was...
I still get a fucking reminder. I'll be like, who the fuck is calling me? And then they'll leave a message and it's like, oh, just reminding you to renew your cannabis fucking license as of September. I'm like, hey, I don't want to fucking... I'm not renewing this.
Shit, I bought some plane tickets to Mexico. Only got me fucking from like Oaxaca, or not Oaxaca, but way down south, fucking all the way up to Mexico City. And then they let two of us on the plane, and then me and Kiki, our tickets didn't work anymore. But we bought them in like a supermarket and shit.
What, tickets?
Yeah, like a travel agency.
Dog, and then you couldn't use them?
Yeah, once we got there, fucking, and I didn't speak no Spanish, but Kiki was from TJ, like Kiki fucking had it handled. They let the two piercers on, dude, and they kept the two tattooers fucking back. It was the silliest thing ever. It was like backwards.
You're like, Kiki! Yeah, he's not leaving. He's all my bad.
Nah, Kiki didn't leave me, bro.
Oh, he stayed with you?
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
But it was the gnarliest thing. Like, our tickets only made us from there to... we were in Aguas Calientes.
Yeah.
We were way down there.
Were you tattooing, or were you guys just partying?
Yeah, we went to a tattoo convention, and it sucked for me, dude. I had no money. I had to keep borrowing money. Goeth was like king of the world down there. And I just left me stranded. That was actually right when I started working for Jack, and I was like, man, I can't stay any longer. I had to get my shifts covered, you know, like I only got this many more days until I got to be back. And he's like, oh, don't worry, we're leaving. So I used the last of my money to take a taxi down to the airport. Yeah. And they're like, yeah, we don't have no flights back to TJ until the end of the week. I'm like, you motherfucker, you lied to me. I was so pissed, dude. So I was stuck in this hotel with no money.
That's just the worst. Being in TJ with no
trying to find
money.
bottled water just to brush my teeth and shit.
You're like,
I ain't trying to be spoiled, but I just say I ain't fucking like Amazon.
No, yeah,
like
yeah.
That, you know. But yeah, I was rolling down cobblestone streets getting like goat cheese quesadillas and shit.
Yeah.
It was fucking gnarly.
That's way
Yeah,
deep. It ain't like, fuck it, I'll just, like if you were in TJ or something, you'd be like, fuck it, I'll just go walk across the border.
I made like $160 at the tattoo convention, but it wasn't very much. I went through it pretty quick.
Yeah. You're like already owed. Like,
Yeah, it was gnarly. We took a flight from TJ in the middle of the night, fucking from there all the way down there, like a straight flight. There was little old ladies with like baskets on their heads and shit. It was gnarly for me. Just like, damn, it's crazy. You're in the Southwest.
And have you traveled like to other countries, like for tattooing or to talk about tattooing?
Well, I've been to other countries to some degree, but on my way to Guam, where my son was stationed, we went to Hawaii for the first time on a stop there to transfer to a flight from there to Japan, and then we had a 13-hour layover until the flight to Guam from Japan. So we spent those 13 hours in Japan, going and coming. But as it turns out, we had no problem. But it was, I mean, the second time, but the first time, we were completely lost, standing in the middle of the almost barren big building and looking at this thing where you're supposed to buy tickets, we think, and then we're trying to figure out what kind of money matches the money we have that we need to use. We just don't speak Japanese.
Yeah.
And yet, we've got to figure out how do we get from there, where we are, out to this temple out there, and in Narita. And so that's where we went. And when we got there, and my wife came back, and she says, the toilet ring is on the ground. And I said, well, they squat. Most stations just squat, you know.
Yeah.
And so anyway.
Do they have regular restrooms or no?
Oh, well, like. So
or that's it. That's all they have.
Now,
that's their shit. That's the way they do it.
They're like, what? You better get with the fucking program, punk. We don't care how you pee.
Power squat.
Supposed to be like, fuck it, I'm going to go in the bucket and just throw it in the trash and fuck it.
That's the power stance, man.
Me, I'd be like, I'm getting a bucket with a hole.
You never tried
to just cut the bottom of the bucket off, put it right there, and let's go.
Works.
I'll bring it with me.
Yeah. Where are you going to bring it to?
I'm fucking cruising.
That's the gardener stance,
What's
man.
up with that bottomless bucket, dog? And be like, look, fool, you're going to find out. How long you been here?
You got an RV dump around here?
Like, you're going to be looking for me. Like, hey, Tommy, you got the bucket? Nope.
Tommy over here taking a shit.
Would you share buckets if you made one of those buckets?
Yeah, if you had to, fuck it.
Charlie, would you share the bucket?
The poop bucket? If you're
poop
pooping in the
bucket?
Well, why not?
If there's only one of them, huh?
Yeah.
You could dig a hole.
Yeah.
Share the hole, or
Like
you're changing holes?
No, definitely.
Like, hey, fool, that's my hole over there.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't want to share a hole, but I mean, you share a porta potty if you have to.
Yeah, that's true. So fucking
Porta
just dig
potty
a
is just a
deep.
big
Just be
old
like,
hole.
just dig it deep, fool.
I shit in so many outhouses as a kid.
Yeah.
Hey, when
It was just some were two holers even, where you could sit
side by side. Hey, when I first got to Modesto, I went to the park and I laid in the park for a little bit before the sun went down, and I fucking went in the public bathroom over there.
Yeah.
And there was some fool with a bike right there, and he was taking a shower or doing whatever. And I had been in there earlier when I first hit the park, and then I smashed the water. I went back and had to take a piss, and I noticed that the fucking shitter was just like, I mean, filled to the brim with something gnarly. So I used the other one by the sink. And man, when I rolled back in there, this fool was in there. He's like, "Oh, yeah, all right, go ahead." And I went and took a piss, and he like walked back into the fucking that toilet, and he's like, "Oh, someone took a fucking gnarly one in here," and he fucking flushed it.
You
right?
thought it was you?
No. I don't know what he was doing while I was taking a piss. I was just thinking like, "Damn, I'm turning my back on this fool and just sitting here taking a piss." And when I fucking was done, I started turning around, and fucking to go out the door. He's like, "Hey, you gonna come in here?" Like you could like. You know, like I felt like I was sharing a cell for a second.
Dog.
I just felt like I was sharing a cell for a second. He's like, "You coming in here?" Oh, so I just turned fucking like, I ain't going that way. I'm going out the door. There was horseshoe things right there. Those fools are getting down.
Horseshoe pits.
Yeah, there's some badass ones actually. I'm sure you know where that is. Where there's some like big horseshoe pits in the park here. Fuck, I'm so high I can't remember.
Were you ever
where
good
I
at?
was.
Did you ever do?
Reseda Park, I think, Adam.
Laseda?
Yeah.
That's where there's a skate
Downtown.
park off right across the street from on the other side of Coffee and Sylvan. Actually,
Yeah.
it would be on
Fire High.
the west side of the east side of Coffee on
Yeah.
Sylvan.
Yeah.
Gets you all fucking.
Yeah.
The skate park.
Yep, there's a big skate
They
park.
got a new restaurant there on that vacant lot that was there forever, and it's called somebody's Memos Cocina y Tequila Bar.
Oh,
Yeah.
Conrad,
Big,
yeah.
it's big and brand new.
Huh?
It's big and brand new.
Yeah, and so I've ate there
Futuristic looking?
twice, and this one, what is it? Chile ahogada.
Oh, torta ahogada?
Well,
Like a sandwich dipped in. It's like all wet, like a wet torta.
The food, Tommy.
You ever had one of those?
well,
They're bomb. Orale. Somebody crashed right now,
Car accident.
live here on the podcast.
That was
People
a
know
car
what I'm saying?
accident for sure. I hope
we heard
everyone's
it.
all right.
Live.
Didn't sound too fast.
We heard the ambulance earlier. Now we heard something. And when you hear da-doom, you know it's something. Somebody got hit.
Oh, it sounded like a couple people split, huh?
Did you imagine they jumped the fence right here? Hey, we'll put them on the podcast. How does it feel crashing and running away from motherfucking thing? Don't fall in the pond.
Hey, Charlie.
yeah.
Would you mind telling these guys some of your early days hitchhiking stories? Because those are some of my favorite. Like when you jumped in the car with those dudes that were going to take you to California, and the old man jumped in, and those two brothers in the front seat, that two guys.
Yeah, so I couldn't decide what I was going to do, where I was going to be, California or Kansas. So this was 59 and 60. And so I was back and forth. And I just would get at one end, just get there, and a week or two later I'd think, why can't I figure it out over there in California? And but for one thing, the professional tattoo world seemed kind of foreign to me because I didn't really necessarily think of tattooing as I was the kind I was seeing. Traditional tattoos, in those days, I just thought of it more like carnival art, you know, which it does. It has its roots there, for sure, and the circus days and so on. But
did you ever get into any of that, like the carnivals or fucking the sideshows, tattooing them, or tattooing for like I don't know, like at a carnival or circus or something?
Where I worked, it was a carnival at the Pike.
Or like, or did you ever tattoo, like, if they had a tattoo lady or something?
Oh,
did you tattoo her?
One of the attractions there?
Yeah.
No. I was more familiar with the Rock Man than anybody.
But at the Pike, they had attractions like that, huh? Like a freak show?
Human oddities of all kinds.
How was that with those guys?
Well, it was pretty cool. But that was one of the first things they did away with. And then they found inside the fun house or whatever, where you're on a little railroad car and lights are flashing and it spins around and, you know, some of those things. Well, that for years and years there was a male figure in this chair, like, you know, like he's, well, dead, obviously. And so when those rides were all taken down, and they went back in there and tore this area open, and here's this guy sitting there in his chair. That's a real mummy. You know, this guy had mummified in there. He was a victim of foul play, and he died right there. But he kind of became.
And he was right there. They made him.
Huh?
They made him a part of the thing?
Yeah, and he just, and everybody just thought it was, just a dummy.
And it was a real mummy?
Dead guy that had mummified.
How many years was he there?
Huh?
How many years do you think it was there?
Oh, I don't know. They think 30 years or so at that time.
And it was the guy that he had killed, maybe?
The 20s.
Maybe that guy maybe killed him, and he just mummified him or something.
Yeah, maybe. You know,
the guy that built the amusement park made an example out of him. He was like a worker that didn't fucking
crazy shit.
Follow the path.
And those carnival guys were really rowdies too. I mean, they were ready to go down in a heartbeat, man. If the L.A. gangbangers came out there and started shit. You know, and thought they were going to control anything. Man, the alarm went out, and these fuckers, all these guys that work the rides and all the joints, you know, where you knock down dolls and stuff, man, they'd be on these guys like nobody's business. And so it was quite interesting, the mixture of humanity that was on the pike, because it was mainly, I thought of as a naval port, because at one time, well, when I went there in 59, there was 500,000 sailors always in port there.
And everyone was getting tattooed.
Yeah.
Like an eagles, their name. And
patriotic stuff.
And you got a piece of that? Tattooing all the sailors or not?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah?
And also the, not just the military sailors, but all these guys that were on merchant ships that had sailed from, they're Norwegian or something, but they just came around the coast of South America, and now they're...
Were you ever around in, like, the Pachuco days? Like, the Pachuco riots and the you know how they had all that with all the sailers and...
Well, that was a little premature on my time.
Yeah, that was before you were over there.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and...
That World War II?
Yeah.
That was like, what, 48 or something?
Yeah, it went from the zoot suiters.
43?
Earlier. You went from the zoot suiters to the Pachucos, to the Cholos, to the...
Well, yeah.
I got
a cool story on the Pachucos.
The
I got a cool story on how the Pachucos, they started awesome. And how they got their name. Was Texas? Yeah, well, my uncle and them back in the day, they were young. They were from Juarez, which is a border town to El Paso, but they call it El Chuco. They were like, so the guys from Juarez would go and dance because they had that music swing and all that. They would go Pachuco when they would ask them, "Hey, ¿pa dónde vas?" Pachuco. We're going to fucking Chuco to go dance, and they would dress up like that and all that. So they started calling them Pachucos. So that's the name they got because they were the guys that would dance. They were from Juarez, but they would go Pachuco to dance, and they would call them Pachucos because they were the guys that dressed all slick and talked all with the slang, and they danced to swing. And the boogie, the Pachuco boogie music, they played this music and they would dance to it, and it was all about dancing. So he's like, it was like that's what it was all about, is dancing. Yeah. They would pick up my uncle from Juarez to bring him to El Paso, but that's how the Pachucos got started. Was they would go Pachuco to Chuco, so they were the Pachucos, and then a lot of those guys came to L.A. for work. And they started the gang stuff, and it became gang stuff after that.
That gang stuff.
That's when it all started over here.
Hey, can I ask you this, Charlie? When's the first time you remember seeing like CS graffiti and stuff like that?
What?
Have you
Probably
been
when
over
I was about
Have you been
8
over
or
there?
10,
Where?
I would say, I
Right there
became
where,
conscious of it.
Yeah.
Because I
Yeah,
lived
hell
all
yeah.
over Texas,
They have that, what's that
and most
joint?
every
The
place I
taquitos?
lived, I was pretty close
Oh,
to a Mexican community.
Chico.
Not always, but
What?
at school, if there was any Mexican guy there, I was usually friends with them.
Yeah.
And so in Texas, you had to be, you had to almost be out of Texas, I guess, not to see that somewhere on a fence, you
Yeah.
know, because,
The Gonzafos, como siempre, ¿verdad?
yeah. So, anyway, I just always saw that and thought, you know, that's why I'm going to put it on my business card, you know.
Yeah. And you, hey, were you one of the first dudes that started pulling that one out?
Oh, yeah.
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 The
Yeah.
first one out.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. That's tight.
Yeah.
And everyone, you see, that's like a, you know, it a whole bunch of people do that. That's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
That's cool, you know?
Yeah, well, you know, I'm the one that started using it back then on a continuous basis, and I know it, you know, spread from there, and in a large degree for sure. Certainly, I wasn't the only one that ever knew anything about any of that, but I was the one that I guess, you know, popularized it to some aspect anyway.
And did you guys, are you who started all, you know how the shading, but with just black, the different shades, the
Yeah.
breakdowns, like the by drops, you know, like how
Yeah.
they break it down in like,
Well, to me, I always thought that was the secret, was the gradation of it all, and so that's why I appreciated the skin as much as the black, and that, I guess, what one would call whip shading or powder shading, or I don't know if they've got 100 names for it all, but that's the secret sauce right there, is what sort of finish there is to it, you know, not just a cool shape or form, but so, I don't know. And quite often I think I left too much skin, but the point was always across, I thought, you know. And sometimes I really see and understand the need for super black in some cases, you know, I can see that. But if it's fresh skin and it's not cover-ups and all that, well, you can say, I guess you can say less is more
yeah.
sometimes.
And you guys were still cool with if people wanted color tattoo, or you're like, chale?
Well, in my case, when I would ask people, so is this going to be colored or just black? And they'd go, well, how would you do it? And I said, well, I just do it black. And they go, why? And I go, well, for one thing, it's probably going to be cheaper. Another thing, it's going to heal faster. And another thing, it's going to last longer. So there you go. 3 good reasons. And I think that is it in a nutshell. It's the simplest form you could present that idea, I think, with the best effect by just using black and whatever lies between that and the skin
Yeah.
tone itself, you know. I just think it's a perfect combination, skin and ink.
Yeah.
But yeah, so in my case, I have respect for all of it, but I always thought to myself, how can this be that difficult? I remember thinking that about professional tattooing. I was kind of amazed. I thought, well, really, tattooing, any child can do this, you know. I mean, look, if you got a fat enough crayon or a big enough fat marker, you can correct anything. You know, hell, it's
Just make the line fatter.
It's kindergarten stuff, but a single needle's not going to lie to you. You know, I mean, it reveals itself right away whether you have it or not. And
that personifies a lot in tattooing. That statement right there.
Yeah, so
that's crazy.
But I always did think that, you know, just exactly that. Well, you know, that's why I just didn't see why it was such a big deal to be a tattooer. You know, from a professional standpoint, you know. But anyway, so I always, eventually I switched to a single 10 colonial needle because you could solder it straight on a needle bar without any other support. Whereas with the 12, you had to use a tight 3 and then pull down that 1. A little farther yet, and to get that single. Well, I eventually switched to a 10 because you could put it directly on the bar with one soldered number, and plus it gave you just a tiny bit stronger line, and I just preferred it. So I used that all my career.
Wow.
Yeah, a single 10.
Wow.
Yeah.
3-pointer.
No, eventually. Oh, the single, that was if it was a 12. Yeah. Then you just pulled one further down. And I didn't think that was any big deal at all. Jack makes it sound like we really had to work to figure all that out. But
yeah, he zigzagged his needles before too, huh?
Huh?
I saw him with a needle where the
upside down?
3 wasn't on the right side, so he flipped it over, and the needle came out, and it made a Z so the needle, you know, you had to put the needle bar in there, so the needle bar's riding down.
Kind of like upside down, right?
Yeah, he flipped it over.
So it floated right to the center of the
it's the
bill.
craziest thing I've ever seen. I couldn't believe that shit.
Tattoo talk.
Some kind of trick.
And so he wouldn't throw away a single needle outliner because back then we used what we call cold sterilization,
Right.
and so we just rinsed them off in the sink and then we would stick them in Barnes Hines wetting solution in a test tube full of that and.
Put some alcohol in there if I could.
And that was, you know, I'm ready to go for the next one. And so, what was I going to say about that? About the sterilization aspect of it, I guess.
Something about making needles, the singles and the not putting them on the 3s, using the 10s.
Yeah.
You were telling us too about how tattooing now, how when you walk into a shop, it ain't this. How sometimes you don't hear that buzz anymore. You hear it's silent, you know, and everyone's busy, but it's silent. It's like the smell. You said you don't smell the. It's not the same smell when you walk in somewhere. Like, how do you feel about guys going from the coil? You know how everyone's like loyal to coil to working with machines. You know, like would you guys call them the dildos?
Yeah.
Like,
what
is that? How do you feel about that?
Pens.
Do you think it's cool that people switch? Like it's like man, that's a new way of tattooing. Like it was always changing. We're always looking for a better way, easier. Or do you just look at it as it's like they kind of lost the aspect of that noise, you know?
Nah, there's people at Tattoo Land that kill it with those pens.
No, that's what I'm saying. Like you guys, how do you? It's like I'll stick to my machines, or do you guys are like, oh, I'll give it a whirl and try some of that stuff?
I've had a swash drive once, so I'm sticking to my coil machines.
Yeah.
You can make soft tattoos with Jim Dandies and shit like that.
Yeah.
What do you think about
and
the
Charlie,
tattoo
about?
pens?
Well,
like the new...
I personally never really ever worked with rotaries to speak of. And when I did, I just didn't care for it. But since I started doing more and more of these little signature things at conventions, well, a lot of times they'll say, "Oh, just use my machine, in my spot, and this and that." And I said, "Well, it'll have to be because I didn't bring anything." And so they're working with the dildo,
Yeah.
So I committed myself to doing it, but
Yes.
I couldn't really, I would say, ever really feel, I don't want to say comfortable, but I just didn't have the same internal feeling about it all, because to me, working with the rotary, it was more like working with a nail. And yet on a coil, there's a relaxation point for a split second there that's required, I think, in the oscillation. That's just like a little hesitation on the return or something that I can't really name, but that's a magic spot, I think, that I recognize that means good tattooing. And not that the other can't deliver the goods, but, to me, if it don't have that little, and then zoom, well, it's just a little, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's got to have a little,
Yeah. It's just like a slight relaxation or something there, just for I don't know. It's a way you just can't duplicate it, really.
It's a little give, yeah.
Yeah, a little give to it. Yeah, that's a way to think about it.
Well, rotary hits really hard. You just got to turn it way down, huh?
Well,
and then you go, I'm not really seasoned with
I don't know.
I
To
don't
me,
know.
it's not. It's just not. I don't know. It's not the. It's not the force it's hitting with. It's just. I just can't appreciate the feeling of it somehow.
Huh.
And even though. One guy, I thought, wow. Because most of them I didn't like, because I've only done maybe 5 or 6 now with the rotaries. But the ones I've done, I would say most of them probably felt kind of top heavy to me. So I appreciated the hand and the coil machine more for the balance somehow.
Right.
But I don't know. I just I've heard, Nick and my son and my grandson, they both like to outline with the coil machine and then shade it with a rotary. But I'm not real sure I'd ever be switching to a rotary. I don't know, and I haven't used them enough.
Huh.
Well, yeah.
What do you think, Brad?
Yeah, I've had one swash drive at one point, and I've messed with the rotary, with like a little make your own or a semi-professional, but I've only from someone else's toolbox, I guess you'd say.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Seems like something you'd have to get used to, I guess. That could be better. I think maybe it could leave less trauma on the skin, but I've been so used to coils, just having a good machine that you can turn down really, really soft and just, graze that sucker over and over. I don't know much about the coils, but at the same time, there's guys that make like Shag and Mike Pike and these different dudes that make like really, really cool stuff that I'm sure has the ability to turn down like that. But I've never been a fan of it, or not a fan of it, but I never like experimented with it. What I meant to say was like the Dan Cubans and machines like that I've never been a fan of, that are like some hard-hitting little box thing, Whereas these other dudes are like mastered the bitchin' way to make a rotary that seems like a coil machine, kind of,
Yeah.
JoJo and Mike made one together a long time ago that was like super bitchin'. It had this like big thing that it looked like the Starship Enterprise. It was
Crazy
fucking
machine.
bad, dude. Yeah, those dudes, like kind of him and Shag, in my opinion, like they pretty much mastered the rotary type stuff. You know,
all that. Yeah, all the new machines that are coming out, like, it's pretty crazy.
Yeah, but they pulled the good stuff out of rotaries. Those two dudes for sure, and JoJo for sure.
But we've been here for a while. We're all fucking stoned and having a good time. I want to thank you.
We're at 13 joints.
We're at 13 joints. I want to thank you, Charlie, for letting us, come out here and hear your stories and letting us be a part a little bit of your getting your story out there. We want, everyone. I want to thank you. I want to thank Brad for coming out here. Drew coming out here, Modesto for the long drive. Just everything, David for taking these pictures, but, Charlie, like, thank you. We appreciate you giving us some of your time and allowing us in and having, some drinks with us, some good times, some joints, 13 joints and counting, And, this is the beginning of, hopefully we get a round 2, when you come out to our way. You come down to the Suavecito store. It's really cool. Check out our studio or check out the store. It's awesome down there. But, thank you for having us here. And everyone who's watching, check out down below. The links are going to be there. So you can check out the Heritage Project here in Long Beach, California. They're going to have a show November 5th. All the links are going to be below, so you could click on it, get merch, anything you want, stories, and link directly to Charlie to get whatever you would like from him. And once again, thank you guys for being here and holding it down.